Hello everyone, welcome to a new video on the channel. Today I'm very excited because we are going to talk all about what tools and tips I have for using a blackout journal. I've been using this blackout journal from 𝓤𝓲 for the last 4 months now, and I feel like I've gotten a hang of it to a point where I can suggest some pens, what you really need to have as essentials, some decorative elements that might help you out as well, and a couple of hints and tricks along the way. So if you think that'd be great and up your alley, please stick around, because I know that a few people have told me they really would like to learn how to work with this paper, but they don't know where to start. This video should hopefully help you with that. So the first tool that I think that you definitely need to have is a stash of wax paper or baking paper. So I have cut these down into sizes to fit each page in my book. You would have seen them if you've been following me for a while. They're always littered through the pages and it looks a bit messy, but believe me, it will save you. The amount of pens that we have to use on blackout paper that are opaque or have some sort of metallic residue to them is quite common. It's basically all I use. So to combat any transfer onto the opposite page, since black paper shows up almost everything, I have learnt this hack, and it is one that I definitely wanted to share with you all straight away, because I think that it's really important if you want your pages to stay clean. So I stick them in between whatever I'm using, whether it's the ones at the front or within a month where I am currently filling it in. I don't keep them in the parts where I'm no longer working, as it just isn't feasible, and also it's not needed because the transfer is only when you put pressure on the opposite page. The colour will move onto the black paper that way. So having the wax paper or baking paper in between has saved me a great deal from leaving marks and metallic residue everywhere. The next thing that I think is crucial for a blackout journal is, ironically, a black pen. So I use this 𝓤𝓲𝓭 1mm thick pigment liner black pen, whatever you want to call them, and technically I used to use this a lot in my everyday white paged journal for line art or anything that I wanted a thicker line for, but this is brilliant for getting rid of errors. So this is another really good hack that I have found, that if I make a mistake in my journal, say I don't want to have some writing anymore, I just need to go over it with this black pen. On camera it shows up a bit shiny, but once it's dry you can go over it again and again and again. I've had one mistake where I kept going over it about 4 times and I was able to write on top of it every time without any issues. You can't have that when you're using correction tape or even white pen on a normal journal. So I think this is the greatest thing when it comes to a black journal, that the paper is a lot more forgiving if you make mistakes. So definitely make sure that you have a black pigment liner, artist pen, anything like that that's going to be able to cover up mistakes for you. Now the next thing that you're going to have to get your hands on is some sort of opaque gel pen, or a pen that's going to show up really well on the blackout paper. The brand that I religiously use is the Sakura Jelly Rolls and the Moonlight collection. They're specifically formulated for black paper, so they work incredibly well. They are very opaque, very inky, and very vibrant once they dry. I have had the greatest experience with the aesthetics of this book simply because the colors just pop whenever I use them. There is a downside to these pens: they're not cheap, and also they take a while to dry. I think most of you who have followed me now know that I complain all the time about how long it takes to dry. If you have a big spot, it takes about 3 to 5 minutes, and that might not seem like much, but when you're filling in several pages, what could have taken you 10 minutes in a normal journal will now take you about 30. So you do have to keep that in mind. Having something like a heat gun or maybe a hairdryer will definitely speed up that time, but it is something to be aware of. Black paper is definitely harder to write on in a way to keep up with, like, if you're doing a timed such manner, like you've only got 5-10 minutes to fill in your journal, you're not going to get it done if you do more than 1 or 2 pages. Otherwise, these pens are worth the money. I was really worried about how much they cost at the beginning. I live in New Zealand, so prices here are dramatically higher for stationery items than overseas, but I paid $55 for this pack at a journal shop online in New Zealand, and I'm grateful that I did, because they have been a total game changer, but they do have those 2 cons, being expensive because they are good quality pens, and also they take forever to dry. If you don't have the ability to grab yourself some opaque pens right away, and I definitely didn't, I highly recommend looking around at your local art stores or department stores. Here in New Zealand we have a department store called Kmart. I'm not sure if this brand can be found outside of NZ and Australia, but it is called 𝓤𝓮, and I found some really good gems at this store. I have picked up the pastel and neon gel pen pack. There's 10 in the pack, you get 5 of each, and they're all the same colours, so you get 2 purples, 2 orange, so forth. And they're really great. I found the pastel show up more than the neon, which makes sense, but the neon, a couple of them turn up really well, and I used the purple one in my pixel for the year. If you've seen me filling that in, that purple is from that pack, and I absolutely love the colour. It does take a long time for the colour to dry in and show up, but once it's there, it's really pretty. I haven't actually tested them for a long-term writing or doing headers with them. I'm going to do that at some point, but I do naturally just gravitate towards the more inkier opaque pens that I have in the Jelly Roll Moonlight collection. But I think these are a really good replacement if I was to ever run out. They do definitely work quite well, and I highly recommend just experimenting, seeing what works on black paper, even if you can get your hands on some black paper that's not in a journal, if you don't want to use a back page or anything, and just give pens a go. You'll find what you think will work well and what doesn't. And I did this as well. I spent a whole day just going through every pen I had in my stash to find what worked, what didn't, and where the gaps were, and I highly recommend doing that. Now, this last one might seem a little bit obvious. Most people who are using bullet journals of some sort will probably have this in their stash, and it is washi tape. I think it is the most versatile way to decorate something really quick, especially if you want to put down a lot of functional writing. Just a pop of colour or a little bit of a design at the bottom of your page is going to really stand out, and that goes for any type of paper, but it definitely works on black paper. I found the more opaque ones that I have, or the brighter colours, really pop, again because the black is such a good contrast. But definitely play around with what designs you might have. I definitely recommend staying away from ones that are white or really see-through, because they definitely, I'm saying definitely or not, but they definitely do blend into your page a bit more and don't stand out as much. But if you've got some, give it a go. It looks so different on black paper than to white, and it's very affordable. Well, at least it is here. I can't really assume that it's the same everywhere else, but I find that just the cheap brands of washi tape work fine in my journals. I have a stash of them for all types of events and theme colors and all that, and I've been utilizing them well with the black paper. So something that I found really helpful is metallic pens. They can be of any type of brand that you know that will work on paper. My best friend gave me some Staedtler pigment markers to try. Whilst they're really thick in the tip, they're I think 1.2 millimeter, they do show up. There are some cons and some pros to metallic pens. Obviously, black paper likes metallic. It stands out really well. It looks good on it, but also a lot of the metallic pens have like a silver base. That's what I've kind of discovered. So I have some in like the 𝓬𝓲𝓭 ones that I borrowed. I also have some Pilot G2s in blue, purple and pink. I use these ones in my long terms collection for my reading journal. I'm sure that if you've been following me for a while you would have seen them. However, I've not really used them on the black paper because again there's that silver underlying to them. All the same, I think I'll give them a good go on the paper in some periods of this year. But I found these ones at the store recently. They are the 𝓬𝓻 brand. Again, I'm sticking with this Kmart 𝓬𝓻 brand because I found that they're really good. And they finally brought out some dot markers in both metallic and normal colours. I got both packs. I use the normal colours in my everyday and I use the metallics, or I will be, in my Blackout journal. I've tested them on the paper. They look beautiful. There are many colours in the pack. I think there's 10 or 12 pens in the pack, and honestly I think they're a game changer. They're affordable and they work well. They seem to be really inky. The other end is a dual tip. It's just a normal writing pen. I think it's a 1mm tip, so definitely giving more options. Look around for metallic pens because they work really well. There is a metallic pen in the Jelly Roll brand as well. I've got a gold one that I religiously relied on in the setup for this journal with the bookshelves. They are the line art that I worked with there. What else have I used that pen for? I used it for quite a lot actually. I think I used it in my very first setup for January as well. And I have just a normal stash of metallic pens all around. There's some Faber-Castell artist pens that I've got. They're not as great, the metallic ones, but they do stand out on paper. Like I said in the beginning, really do test things out when you're experimenting with the paper. Have a page at the back or some other black paper that you can work with and see what pens work. But these 𝓬𝓻 brand ones, if you're in New Zealand or Australia and you want to try Blackout paper, highly recommend. This next one isn't for everyone because they are pricey again, and they aren't going to be something that everyone can afford to have in their black journals. However, I have found that using paint pens has increased my ability to have great line art that's not sparkly and headers that are not sparkly. They are generally opaque. They kind of look like a chalky effect on black paper, if that makes sense. And I really enjoy them. I have only tested this one pack by the Acrylograph 𝓤𝓻 𝓬𝓲 brand, and they are the warm full and the I think 3mm tip. You can also get a 0.7, which I would assume would be greater to write with and more finer detail work. And I've also got a white Posca paint pen from a very long time ago that I tried to utilize in my everyday journal for mistakes, but it didn't really work for me then. I have tried it on this paper and it's opaque and it works okay. I just don't tend to grab for white pens when I already have my Jelly Rolls or whatever that are generally quite opaque. The paint pens work really well for headers, for line art. Like I mentioned, I'm really happy with them. I use them to fill in the boxes when I have finished a book. I have also been using them for headers, for decorative detailing like boxes, and what else have I used them for? Actually, I think that's pretty much it so far. I have the idea to kind of decorate with them as well, but I haven't been adventurous enough to do so. I'm not very good at drawing, so maybe I'll give that a go at some point in the year, but overall I'm really happy with them. Some of them aren't as opaque as the others, and that does leave a little bit of a downside to them. I think the dark colours, however, are phenomenal. They're very opaque and I've enjoyed using them. I actually gravitate to them more than I do the lighter colours, but the lighter colours work well for things that I don't feel like need to be completely coloured in, if that makes sense. If you are going to try out paint pens, they are a costly setup. Again, these pens cost me around 55 New Zealand dollars. That was from a online journal shop that sells a lot of 𝓤𝓻 𝓬𝓲 stuff here already. I couldn't tell you how much it would cost to import from art all of itself, and I won't be doing that. What else? I think that I'm going to try some Posca pens to see if they are a better alternative, because I can get them more readily in New Zealand. I will be back with that one sometime later in the year when I can afford to get some more pens. But for now, they work well for when I need them, and they do great line art. They do smear a bit if you're not careful, but using my black pen marker afterwards to clean up the lines has been just phenomenal, and that's what I do every time I make a mistake with these pens. So under the paint pens you might see some strawberries. That is a piece of decorative paper, and I highly recommend using decorative paper in any journal, but especially in black journals, because it adds another element of surprise and interest. I always do my setups the same, so there's always going to be Pinterest collage themes for the books that I'm representing in each theme, but I try to use decorative paper to fill in the gaps or add a little bit more interest to the page, try and line it up. As you can see, the strawberries were for April when I did the hating game as my theme for the month. That was a key part to the character, or one of them, so choosing paper that works really well can be a game changer, another element of decoration to your black journal. It's not going to just leave it as one big black block. You can break it up with some paper. I think this is pretty straightforward though. Most people would know to use that in their journals, but I'm giving it as an option because it's something that I've utilized a lot with this journal. Just in my setup pages, I had like a galaxy theme for both my books from the long terms collection and also this one, and I used the same pack, I think, of paper in both, and it looks great on both papers and very different as well. Two different vibes going on, so definitely give decorative paper a go. I also didn't put it down in the pile in the picture, but there's no stopping you from using other coloured paper if you get sick of using black all the time. I haven't yet, but I do plan to use some of the stack of white paper that I have, like the little cut-offs from other journals. I have a big stack of it. If I ever need it, I can just use that. I can write a header on it and then cut it out. I could do so many different things with it. I could line it up in my Cricut and write on it, that kind of stuff, and then just stick it straight into the book. The opportunities to use paper in a black journal really helps you break things up, and I would highly recommend this as a decorative element to your toolkit. Another great decoration tool I have in my kit are stickers. So I tend to just use functional stickers in my journal, though February was very sticker heavy. I used my Cricut to make some stickers out of sticker paper with some quotes, some Instagram headers that I created, and some hearts. I really went out on that theme actually. It's one of my favorites this year. And I also use these 5-star rating stickers all the time. I've mentioned that I'm going to do a tutorial on how I made those, and I will do that in the future. The original footage I took was corrupted, so I need to get some more sticker paper before I can show that to you all. When I do, I will definitely put that video up on the channel. However, stickers are really helpful. We use them in our normal journals or scrapbooking or anything like that. They're just the same in black paper, but I do feel that they give a different vibe, especially when they're just on white paper. I haven't utilized any like designs. I'd really like to buy some from other sticker journal shops on Etsy perhaps, but in the future that will definitely be something that I try. I think these are really fun, and they add another pop of interest to the page, and again with that whole breaking up of things, because it is white paper, it does do that. It's not one big black page, so definitely get yourself some stickers if you can. I'm sure you could just use any kind of sticker. I have tested both washi tape stickers and opaque white background stickers just today in my journal for you all, and they work both really well. I think the washi tape one blends in a little bit and is a lot more subtle, so if you want to do scrapbooking and building up on that blackout paper, that would definitely be an option. The other type I wouldn't actually be using in this journal because it's a gorilla, but yeah, definitely pick up some stickers if you feel like there's some empty space in your journal and you want to fill it. I think they are an easy way to do so. So something when I was testing this paper out that stood out to me that I think that I should share now is about paints. You might have some watercolor paints either with a metallic hue to them, or they might be quite opaque. I think maybe gouache would be an interesting one to try. I don't have any, but that could definitely be something to play around with in a black journal. I have tried these watercolor ones I have. They're by Jazz Art, and whilst they aren't the most opaque, they do give a subtle glow and they are really pretty on page. I used the gold and the bronze from my pack for the bookshelf at the beginning in my setup pages, and I really liked the subtle look that it gave them. I outlined the bookshelves with my metallic gold Jelly Roll pen by Sakura, and then I went in the inside and did all the watercolor with the gold, and again I outlined the bronze with a Pitt Artist pen in bronze or copper I think it's called, and I use that for the key. So definitely give yourself a chance at using your paints if you have some. I don't think you need to rush out and buy any. I didn't buy anything for my black journal. I just used the paints that I had and gave them a go and found that they worked, so that was good to use something that I already had. So this last one is very much so an optional one. In fact, all of these decorative element ones are. However, I have a Cricut and I had no inclination to use it for my journals whatsoever. Maybe I'd make some stickers now and then, but it wasn't something I purchased thinking that I was going to get into making stickers heavily or crafting with my journals that way. However, I watched a video a while ago by Erin Art Smith, I think that's the name of the channel, and I was blown away by the idea of using vinyl to cut out headers for our journals, and tried it, absolutely love it. It is a game changer for me. We'll definitely be using this sort of option a lot. I need to get some different colored vinyl because I have rolls and rolls of this gold stuff that I got on clearance, and that is all I've got aside from black, and I don't think that's going to stand out very well. So it's very easy to use. If you've got a cutting machine and you've got some vinyl lying around, make yourself some headers and get it cut out, and then you just need to burnish it down and then stick it into the book and peel away. I had some left over from a journal that I didn't quite set up in time for my everyday journal. That's why I had the word week, and unfortunately the only thing that I could get on the page was we, because I had a short piece of transfer tape for this demonstration. So yes, I should have gone with eek, not we, but it's very simple. You just stick it down, peels away, it doesn't rip the page up unless you really burnish it down, and I think it's a great hack. Definitely something that only works for people who have these machines or are willing to sit there and cut it out by hand. I suppose you could do that as well. I just happened to have this and gave it a go, and am now going to make it a staple in going forward, because one of the biggest things that I find that takes the longest time in setting up my journal each month are headers. So if I can make shortcuts anywhere I go, I'm definitely going to do it, and this is one way of doing that. I think you could also use it to do really cool decorative elements. I was thinking about how I could do like skulls and stuff for Halloween, just for example, or little elements that I could stick behind some of the collages. Maybe I might do that today with my new setup that I'm going to be doing for the month of May. I've just got a really cool idea just filming this actually, so that is something to check out and see if I can use it for more than just headers. It will be gold though. So where I want to conclude this video is simply by saying, if you have a lot of these tools already, and chances are if you are a seasoned bullet journaler or you are really into crafts and have a lot of stationery items, you're generally going to find it okay to move into a blackout journal, so long as you have some sort of opaque gel pen, because otherwise what are you going to write with in the book? But It is a learning curve. There are different ways of using black paper than there are white, and I do think that it is not for everyone. Whilst it's aesthetically pleasing, you do have to spend some money to set yourself up if you want to make it work and not use the same pen every single time. And you also need to be aware of the challenges that come with this paper. You can't just pick up the journal and any old pen and expect it to work like you can with a white journal or a different color journal that's not black. However, I think there is a good payout. Once you've put in the effort, you learn how to work with it, you have the tools that you can achieve something that looks great with. I think it's well worth your time. I have really enjoyed this challenge and I'm really grateful for all the support I've had with this journal, and I think that having some tools, the right ones, really work and make this enjoyable. So if you're thinking about joining me and having a blackout journal yourself, please go ahead and give it a go. Be aware that you need to experiment along the way. It is very much so an experimental process in the beginning. And I also would love to know if I've missed any really helpful tips that perhaps other people who have used blackout journals might know. There are so many different things that we can use in these books, and a lot of them would probably be quite common sense. I know a lot of these tips have been, but I would be really interested to see if anyone else has things that I might have not used and can give a go in the future. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends, and I'll be so glad to see you in my next video. Bye everyone!